Hi everyone, I'm Echoes and I'm a Vtuber, and I'll be going over episode 9 of The Gene of AI titled A Proper Society. So, this episode is super interesting because compared to, I guess, last episode, we get a little bit more meaty social commentary this time around. So, I'll be going over that. So, the first story pretty much involves this anime creator. He makes his own anime, but his anime is considered a bad influence on children. So you see that in this they're showing the beginning part of the anime here, where this kid is going against this group, and the group is saying, "Oh, you're taking the girl hostage. You're a bad guy." He's like, "I'm a coward," and nope, that's a good thing. Doing things a clean, pretty, proper way. Even a robot can do that. I play dirty, I cheat, I scheme. I'll do whatever it takes to get what I want. Because I follow Shadow Bushido. It's kind of like, he pretty much is a protagonist that acts like a villain, right? Or has like a bad boy nature, maybe? And like, you can see this group of people are discussing. It's like, oh, this is very old, right? And this guy's really a protagonist, not the villain. He's the protagonist. And this guy here is upset about it. He's like, he does bad things. He's pretty much like a thug in essence. But the scary part is that he never gets any punishment for what he does wrong. All his antisocial behavior is affirmed. It makes it worse than gore or And that this show has a strong sway over children right now, which I find kind of interesting. We should take a stand to change the state of affairs. So this is like a group of parents a group of people trying to say, oh, this isn't fit for children. It's considered too violent, I guess. Or it's not appropriately rated, maybe. So these guys, I guess, are trying to argue with the original creator. And the guy talks about, hey, my old-fashioned parents were very controlling. I never got to enjoy virtual entertainment. I don't want my own children to have that same experience. Values change with the times. Parents shouldn't force theirs on their kids, but here he kind of is, actually. I wanted them to explore whatever stimulated their curiosity. That's honestly how I felt up to a point, and that's until now. Where you can see the mom's trying to get them to eat dinner, and then you see that the kid is imitating what's happening in the TV show. And so you can kind of get this impression that it's a bad influence on the kids. And the parents like, nope, this is not good. This is completely wrong. Why are my kids acting like this? It's such an immoral anime. Because also keep in mind that nowadays there's a lot of I feel like because of the influence of the internet, right? A lot of kids have very easy access to things that they aren't supposed to be watching at a certain age. I actually read an article relatively recently, about how kids were kind of got influenced by sexually related I guess content at a very young age, to a point that they were disturbing their classmates, right? And the teachers were like, what are we supposed to do when this happens? And then the teachers are like, we have to show them that what they're doing is wrong. And then they created a punishment that showed, hey, this is wrong. You're making the other people in the classroom uncomfortable. You better not do this again. So in a way, the teachers were disciplining the kids. But here, I don't know if it's bad that the parents... One sec. I don't think it's bad that the parents are, what's the word? Aren't punishing the kids, because it's not like the kids have, it's not like as far as the case I mentioned just earlier, but regardless, they still have responsibility over what their kids are watching. ideally they would say, hey, just don't watch this kind of content, right? But I guess he also doesn't want to prevent his kids from having, like, I guess, their freedom, I suppose. But yeah, I guess, but in a way, this situation is a bit more nuanced than you would expect. Because if you think about it, when you watch things at a young age, you're often influenced by them, and they can help influence your thoughts and actions later on in life. So in a way, this could also apply here. Because what showed is you won't be surprised at how the creator acts. So you say, oh, when our site tried to contact him for a phone interview, the director of the show just said, you got a problem with it, just come and see me. So in a way, but you better be ready to risk your life. I think that's kind of an interesting way of thinking, because it shows just how passionate he is with his work. Looks like, do you guys want to do my anime? And you can see he's being critical here. Making a program that children are watching, would like you to hear this from ethical. So he's like, oh man, you're not being ethical towards kids. Ethical lines, huh? And who draws the lines? You guys? He's like, oh, you have freedom of expression, right? And they have it too. And then this guy's just going to the bathroom. Thought you need a lot more people to make anime. He's doing it all by himself. So in a way, this guy is really passionate. And the other guy says that because you could make whatever you want alone, which is interesting. I guess maybe AI can do I guess you just got to create the storyboard and then the AI finishes the rest, maybe? It's kind of interesting that in this supposed futurist world, it's easier to create content. Means that there's fewer checks in place for an awful work. So in a way, it's not completely this guy's creator's fault. It's more like whoever is doing the checks isn't doing a good enough job. Could also be. It's like you're blaming the creator, right, for creating work that they like, right? It's not his fault exactly that it's not, what do you call it? It's not shown to its proper audience as well. So in a way, you could say that these guys are placing the blame on the wrong person. Because it's visually striking, it attracts kids. Then you see that they're like, oh, something happened to him. And he collapsed in the bathroom. And then you see that he's going to a doctor, and he says, oh, he's going there because he has anemia from overworking himself. It's like, man, you gotta take care. And then we get to the Sensei here. And it's like, oh, thanks. You also see that the mangaka is a humanoid too. Or the anime director. And he likes going there because he gets cheaper meal replacements. And then the people who are critics are like, I'm surprised you're risking your health. Why don't you work on something else? In a way, I feel like what he says here is interesting. He says, I'm just making the kind of story I want to. You won't understand. Besides, if the world keeps catering to well-behaved types like you folks, it's just going to lead to more bad things. And he's like, what the heck is wrong with you? He's like, the crime rate's decreasing. And that's not what he means. He explains more later. Going to lead to more things that are considered bad. Driving is a good example. The way things are now, choosing to drive yourself is enough to call yourself a murderer. When, like, before, that was considered a choice, right? I mean, not a choice, it's something you had to do in order to get to places. But in this society, because driving has caused so many accidents, they made it forbidden because to prevent further deaths from cars. If that keeps up, it will just be considered evil to just be human. So in a way, to be able to do... What's interesting about what he says is that, for example, if you imagine a world that only shows good things, right? You'll never know what's bad. So what he's trying to do is still introduce those bad things so kids can understand, like, hey, this is bad, you shouldn't do this. But you also should know what is good too. So in a way, it teaches them how to make good judgments. Because if you only show the good things in the world, you'll never know what the bad things are. So you have to show both. And I think that's what he's trying to say here. And then you see here is where these two, the two people discussing, like, oh, I don't get it. It's like he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. And then other guys like, boils down to he feels like he can't express himself. AI-based society unless he acts like a bad guy. Since AI can't come up with stories that affirm wrongdoing like his. That also makes sense too, because I guess AI is programmed to only show good things, show what people want, rather than what the world is like. It's like, sometimes they say that reality is cruel, right? You have to see the bad things to understand what's good. So in a way, it's kind of like that. It'd be unethical, and Susan's like, who are they? They're like from the wholesome something for children, which makes sense. You see, they're like, oh, give me some meal replacements. And then the doctor's like, oh, whatever, man. You do you, I guess. And you can see that this guy's making his own anime. And then he also is continuing the story. Do you think you can stop him? So he acts like a villain here. I guess he's more like an anti-hero, maybe. And then you see the other guy's like, in order to win against you, I'm going to use a knife, which is also considered pretty lowly. So in a way, you can see that because they know that this guy's kind of acting like a bad guy, they know what a bad guy is. They also know that the other guy with the knife is also a bad guy. So you see that the kids are like really excited to watch him. You see this guy just chugging like, I guess a meal replacement or some sort of energy drink. Oh, and I'm ready to risk my life. So that's an interesting way of putting it. It shows just how passionate he is, huh? You see that this guy's trying to like make a protest or get a lot of signatures. It's like, oh, you're not gonna get away with this. Susan wanted to stop by, just time for a checkup. And the guy is just showing the signatures they collected. And he's like, what am I supposed to do about this? Because, like, in a way, he doesn't have much control over who watches it. He just creates the show, right? Do you not feel any guilt? I mean, he shouldn't feel guilty, right? And then you see that these guys here is like, why did they get off without bumping me without word? You can see these guys are kind of like those thugs. He's like, oh, me for medical bills, huh? And then this guy's like, what is wrong with you guys? He's trying to extort an adult. Well, trying to throw. You can see he's getting angry at them. But you see that the manga is like, dude, don't do that. You're going to just make them more angry. So you can see that this guy has some experience with this type of situation. And he says, oh, you glamorize criminal behavior. No, he's not doing. He's just letting people know what is criminal behavior, right? Completely different intent. And then the other guy punches him. Because these guys are kind of like those bad guys in a way. So they're acting kind of like sleazy dudes. And then the other guy's like, you guys want to just leave it, okay? Just he's trying to de-escalate this situation. And then he decides to fight back. He's like, oh, give me your money. And the other guy just punches him out. And it's like, whoa, this guy can fight. Sorry about that. Can help myself. So you can see he's fighting against these goons. So in a way, it's sort of like, if you think about it, there's a parallel situation going on here compared to the show. You know, the guy was so-called taking a girl hostage, right? And was ganged up by this group of guys. And here you can see this guy's also being ganged up by a group of guys. And he's like, oh, I need my hands from a job. You can't be doing this stuff. And then you see this guy also takes out a knife, just like the character in the show, the other guy. He's a humanoid, so now he's also being racist. It's like, oh, because a humanoid, it's not like this will kill him, right? So in a way, the other kid had a bad influence. But yeah, see, this is pretty much like perfect material for his show, right? These goons with the knife, and he's attacking them as the guy's protecting the guys down, right? In a way, we don't know the situation why the other guy had the girl with him, right? But maybe it's because he was trying to protect her from the other people. So in a way, you could see that you can't just see something from an initial perspective here. I'm ready to risk my life. And he says the same words as the protagonist. And they see this guy is like, got punched, but he's okay. And the other guy got a bit more injured. Nurse told me you're not going to press charges. Like, are you serious? Kid ran off when after a blood level. He's just small-time crook. And the other guy's like, why did you try to protect me? Well, supervillains are nice and all. I prefer to write about petty crooks like those. Like, petty? He cut you. I can see why you think that way. But when we shrink the martyrs for wrongdoing, until they're gone, what's left won't be human anymore. So in a way, you have to show there has to be like a range for what's considered bad, right? Because if you remove all that's bad, right, then it's just something that's just far too perfect. Which is why I said what's left won't be human anymore. Because all humans are flawed, right? No person is completely perfect. That includes him too. But it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be something that shows what's wrong to also show what's right. Just some new thing that used to be human, yeah. Sanji's a bad guy, but sometimes he does good things. So then you can see that these kids are like, oh, I know he's not always a good guy, right? He does a lot of bad stuff. But he also does good stuff too. It shows their ability to make their own judgments. And then that's why that guy's thinking about it. He's like, oh, all those guys are so weak. And the girl's like, you could have just used me as a shield, that in order to sort of cement that he's a bad guy. And she's like, are you actually a good person? He's like, I'm a fall of the shadow Bushido. So there's no real answer to it, but in a way it shows, not everything, like, you have to show what's wrong to also show what's right. I guess that's the general perspective. Human intelligence demands things on the scene. High school is a crucial proof for children's formation of their identities. So this guy's interviewing for a teaching job. Because industrial AI run the risk of giving impressionable children's sensibilities that might be off base. Teaching young humans how to be human with a curriculum designed by humans. That's our school's policy. So in a way, this is like a pro-human school. This is now the second story. And the other guy's like, are you going to work there, man? And he's like, they gave me a job. But is that good? They don't have a good reputation. And also he mentioned there was a report that there's humanoid discrimination. But it was a while back. They got a huge emphasis on transparency. Even stream the lessons live to parents. This is what I find is kind of creepy. Because in a way, it could be considered an invasion of privacy, right? Like, which kid wants to have their parents monitor them, like, for hours at a time? It can be completely, especially you're at this age where you have some independence, it can be very violating. Aren't there privacy issues? Like, nope. Mosaics apply to all the other children except the viewers. Wouldn't they need AI to apply the mosaics, though? Whole step is kind of fishy. And the idea is not to use AI during actual lessons. You won't even have robots in the classrooms. Sounds like a bunch of regressive nonsense, yeah. In a way, it seems too old-fashioned. But they were the only school that offered me a job. So in a way, he's kind of desperate. He's like, even if this school isn't good, I gotta find some work. In a way, this lady gives him the manual. And then you can see she explains things. Parents watch everything we do. They chose the school because they wanted peace of mind. Be careful when you're handling students to not cause any complaints. You can see that they're really being really strict with them. Difficult because of the racism or because you can see that, like, if you got such a huge manual and told me, hey, study this in one day, that's like impossible. It's just too much. So in a way, they're just treating him badly. And then he now talks about how there's a lot of younger schools that have robots. Because they can do certain things that some humans can't, especially with understaffed areas. And they could, like, go into places that adults can't see. Like, this robot's here, like, hey, don't fight. They can be useful. And then also they can provide advice. Pretty normal to use AI as a teacher's advisor. And the guy's like, I don't know about slowing the lesson down just to help one student, right? He's being biased, but there's direct correlation to be found between self-esteem and comprehension. Perhaps having a frank conversation to establish a friendship as friends and not merely student teacher. That's kind of interesting advice. I wouldn't say it's perfect, really. But yeah. But he's like, oh, that's a good idea. A lot of students just interact with the students however the AI tells them. Then you see this guy's like, I want my child to grow up with real human. I want my child to be one of a kind. Can't trust a mass-produced AI to make that happen. So in a way, they like, oh, I want my student to be the most unique guy possible. And I want my child to be special. But if you ask, do the students trust human and humanoid instructors then I guess not. That's not true because they have the cameras, right? School holiday, so they're doing a test now. And you see that these guys are like, you have to do things at the right time. Or to come in after you, they feel excluded, like they're late. Homeroom hasn't even started yet, but it's a problem. We receive complaints about it. Enter within 3 seconds. So in a way, all they're trying to do is prevent the parents from complaining. It's all covered in the manual you received. You have it memorized by tomorrow. And like, man, that's just so unreasonable. Like, they just think he could do it so fast. They're just so, you can see this guy's stifled by it. Like, man, there's so many rules and constantly told what not to do. In a way, he feels like he's suffocating. Let's refer to all the kids by their family names and with a san. I'm like, who does that? They're super sensitive about any variation in treatment. How many students do you think actually watch? A lot of them, I guess. You don't know. Or say, received 3 complaints. Gonna be okay. And then you see that they have this athletic meet. Instead of having a typical sports festival where, you see kids competing, you just have the kids do some sort of virtual gym. All they're doing is just, I guess, being in this position, right? And you see all the students are now synchronizing. Pay attention to your implant AR display. So in a way, all the parents are just watching the virtual version of their children doing athletic things. And that's just, I don't know, it's just so wrong to me. I'm like, point of competition is to show, skills, right? But here, the students aren't even exercising. Like, what's the point of athletic meet if you don't compete? He's like, does it even count as exercise? Their school, especially the parents, love it. Oh my God. No one gets hurt. I saw in the AR display, their own child is always on the top of the parent. I guess in a way, these parents, all they want to show that their parents the kids is seemingly the best. But it just feels like they're just lying the entire time. A kind of high calculated dead end equality. But is there anything human about this type of kind of equality? And then you see all this calligraphy in the back. That is, we'll connect to something else. This is how humanity should operate. With so much oversight, the teachers fear any real interactions with their students, and this is the flaw. They mostly just ask questions in mechanical fashion. And if they're troubled students, there's no attempt made to reach them, because all they care about is preserving their reputation. They don't care about the students who stand out, and they're just removed. And just so depressing because, they may seem like the most so-called wanting everyone to be equal, everyone to be happy, everyone to be satisfied, but in reality, only the parents are satisfied. The teachers aren't happy because they feel like they're monitored all the time. Students are monitored all the time, so they have no privacy. It's just such a dystopian kind of setting, It's just depressing. It's what I had in mind when I became a teacher. But then you see some fruit of his labor, right? It's like, oh, this kid, right? And he says that, oh, I submitted, you can see what he does here. He submitted his calligraphy. It's like, oh, I won a special award because he submitted it. And that's because the child's like, oh, I was able to do it because you showed me. It's like, thank you. So in a way, it shows that, the students do want, it's not that they want to all be treated equally, right? I guess that's what the parents are, but the kids want to shine, right? They want to say, oh, hey, I've done so well. Please praise me. They want to show that their efforts are being acknowledged. And the fact that this kid doesn't feel acknowledged he told the teacher, right? Specifically, because the teacher acknowledged his efforts, right? But he didn't mention, oh, my mom was so proud. No. Because in a way that goes against the ideology of the school. However, you can see he went to the principal's office and it's like, hey, you brought drinks to the calligraphy club. And he mentioned that, oh, one of the students got an award and he promised to do so. And the principal's angry, so that you don't understand the policy. That everyone should be equal. And what's the big deal? It's just some drinks. Then when he enters the teacher's lounge, you can see that all the teachers are angry. You can see this like passive aggressiveness here. This guy's like going out. It's like, quit causing problems with your human act, dumbass. And you can see he's being discriminated against because he's a humanoid and all the teachers are human. It's just, teachers aren't robots. They're people with the same flaws and biases as anyone else. And you can see he's going to sue the sensei because he can't take it anymore. Thought I'd try to hang in there for the whole year for my students' sake. The way they treat me just keeps getting worse. He has such a bad environment here. I can prescribe drugs that'll help, but it's best to just change your situation here. And he feels sad because he wants these students to do well, but he's not able to do it because the environment's just too toxic. A year after I quit, I started assisting at an independent school. And then we get an introduction of Prim-kun again. Oh, I love this guy. Say, if you get good score in the next test, then I'll make you for one. He's so good with children. He's a care robot. But because his AI was raised in schools, he does a good job for us. And what I like about this school is that you can see that the guy explains, we got kids who don't fit in at school, kids who are afraid of adults. We have all different kinds of kids here. I'm sure that what we've been through will be an asset to them. I wonder what the parents think of Prim-kun. Since he's a professional caregiver, they trust him. I know that might sound ironic after what you've been through. But in a way, you can see he's a lot happier here because not only does he get to properly teach these students, without like feeling like he is constantly judged for them, allowing them to shine when they do prove through their efforts that they're able to shine, and also helping those who are lacking behind. That's what he always wanted in the end. I think that's what most teachers want. Obviously, besides a paycheck, they want to nurture the students, allow them to grow, but doesn't want them to just be hampered by the wishes of their overbearing parents. So yeah, I love this episode a lot. It's just so interesting, right? You get the whole thing about wanting to show what's bad to teach kids what's bad in the world. When other people say, oh, this is not appropriate content. But in a way, it's not completely the creator's fault because he's just doing what he wants and his intentions are good, right? He's like, hey, we got to show what's bad so people can learn what's bad. If you only show what's good, then you don't know what's bad if all you see is the good stuff. And then that parent eventually realizes that because the kids are like, hey, this guy's pretty bad, but he does good things. So they can then make their own judgments. And the second half is pretty much about how, it's pretty much a crazy extreme where parents are observing the kids to make sure they're doing the right thing, to a point that the teachers are just trying to adhere to the parents' complaints. And keep in mind that not all parents are not always the king here, right? Sometimes you get ones that are abusive, or ones here that could be considered helicopter parenting, which means that they're so overbearing they don't allow their kids to become independent or do things on their own. In a way, you could say that the initial school that was introduced, is just not a good environment for kids to grow. And that's just sad because, in a way, they're doing this whole pro-human thing, but in a way, they also are so much more less human because they don't allow mistakes to happen. I think that's they don't allow people to get hurt. They don't allow teachers to express themselves. Don't allow the kids to feel acknowledged if they're having trouble. It's just so depressing. It's in a way ironic. And that's why when the guy eventually goes to the independent school where kids are allowed to shine, they're not forced to be equal as everyone else. They're all allowed to show oh, you did a good job, or if you need help, oh, hey, I'll help you. It's it allows their efforts to be acknowledged, and also for him to do what he wanted in the first place, which is to teach kids, to allow them to be nurtured for and prepare themselves for the world. So yeah, all right. Thank you so much. Hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you guys next week.